Let's first give the user the ability to remove an alert by clicking on something that is inside the alert. And that would be the responsibility of our directive template. I'll need to add a little bit of additional UI here. I'm going to add a div that has a class of close. That's a bootstrap class that will effectively push this piece of content out to the right-hand side. And inside of here, I could have a button, or let's try something with an icon. So a span with a class of glyph icon and glyph icon dash remove. That should be an icon that looks like an X, something that implies that if you click it, it should go away. And then we just have to tell Angular what to do when someone clicks on this piece of UI. I'm going to say, let's remove the alert and pass in the current alert that we are on inside the repeater. And that means I will need to add remove alert to the scope for this directive. So let me save that UI and come over to alerts.js. Now the question is, where do I add remove alert? I could add that to the scope object inside of the linking function. But of course, a directive can also have a controller that is good for logic. And this controller can just be an inline function. This will take a scope object, and this will be $scope because this is an injectable function. And if I want scope, I need to use $scope. That's unlike the link function where the parameters are fixed and it's always scope, element, and attributes. But now I have a controller for this directive, and I can add to the scope object the remove alert function. I just paste it in that name. And now the next question is, how do I remove an alert from the current alert array? I do have access to that array. It's on my scope object. But it would be bad form for this directive to directly manipulate current alerts. That's really the responsibility of the alerting service. So let me tell the alerting service to remove an alert. And of course, this function will take the alert object to remove. That's what we're passing in with ngClick, and I'm just going to pass that object along to the method call on the alerting service. So now when I save this, I will need to go to the alerting service and add a remove alert function here. Let's do that down here at the bottom of the file. So remove alert is a function that takes an alert object, and now there's all sorts of fancy ways to find that object in the array and pull it out. If you're using a library like Lodash or underscore, this would be a one-liner, but we'll do something a little more low level since I don't have any of those libraries included. I will loop over current alerts using a variable I to go from 0 to the length of the array. And inside of here, check if current alerts sub I is equal to that alert object. We will essentially be comparing pointers there, and then if this is the alert that I want, I will tell that array to splice out at that index exactly one element, and then we could break out of this loop because we're done. Now I just need to expose remove alert as another method here on the service. And let's save everything and try this out. I'll come out to the UI, do a hard refresh. Let me just add a couple quick alerts to the screen and click on the button, and I can see them go away. Did they go away in the proper order? There's 1 and 2. I click on 1, it goes away. Click on 2, it goes away. So that's good. But what if I wanted these messages, these alerts that appear on the screen, just to time out after some period of time and disappear? That would actually be relatively simple. What I could do in the alerting service is inject the timeout service, and then every time we add a new alert, and that always comes through this add alert function, I will just set up a timer to remove that alert, let's say after 5 seconds, which is a very short time, but we want to see it work relatively quickly in this video. I can say remove alert. This alert that I just created, but of course now we will need to close around that object. So let me create an alert variable that points to the object we need, pass it to push, and then set up our timer. Now technically, a user could remove the alert before the timer expires, and nothing should break. We'll just go off searching for an alert that doesn't exist in this array when the timer does expire. If we wanted to be really picky and finicky about that scenario, what we could do is save the promise that timeout returns and cancel it if that alert is removed. But let's just forge ahead with a simple case here and see if this works. So back in the UI, do a hard refresh. And let me just add a couple success messages. And we wait a little bit. and they start disappearing with the timer. And what we have now is a relatively robust alerting service that doesn't require a lot of code, but it allows us to add alerts, it will remove alerts, and we've tied it together with a controller and a directive, and again it's a case in Angular where you can build up some big functionality just using some small manageable components that all work together. And now that we have the service built, let's see how we can use it to catch and display real diagnostic information.